Our presentation tonight, I don't know if you'll get your first slide, is on Robroyston Station. It's a brand new station in Scotland, opened almost a year to the date, so we tried to make things topical. Opening was the 9th of December. In a way it's a first of its kind, because this station was actually, in terms of the procurement agent for this, and the person who managed it and delivered it, was the train operating unit. Normally a station would be delivered by Network Rail, and this is sort of a unique case where it was done by the actual ScotRail train operating unit itself. So it's actually a very unique one. I'm really pleased. We've got two fantastic presenters, Kirsty, Devlin and Sarah. Now, my dyslexia and my accent will struggle to say your name, so I'm just going to call you Sarah, and I'll let you pronounce your own name. I do apologise, Sarah, I should have rehearsed that before. I've known Kirsty for about 3-4 years. We worked together. Kirsty was the project manager of the 365 introduction, which a project was very close to my heart. Fantastic person to work with, a great driver, it just makes things happen. Sarah I've known for a couple of years now, our various trips on the trains, getting an insight on how it was building Robroyston. Lots of energy, and it's always great catching up on your train and finding out how things are going. So a massive welcome to you both. We'll look forward to the presentation. If you don't mind, we'll take questions at the end. Right, and I'll hand over to yourselves. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kirsty.
Thanks, Ian. So, good evening, everybody. Delighted to be here presenting. I do confess that Sarah Piscitelli, which I think is the right pronunciation.
Piscitelli, almost.
Piscitelli,
almost.
Almost. Is going to do the majority of this presentation, as Sarah was the project manager for Robroyston Station. So I'm head of projects and PMO at ScotRail, and was involved in the project probably from around May 2019 until completion, and indeed until now, as there are still some things going on at the station. But Sarah was the project manager throughout the life of the project, so has much more in-depth knowledge than me. So I'll hand over to Sarah to go through the presentation.
Thanks, Kirsty. Certainly my 2 years seconded to ScotRail was two of the best years of my career to date. Really enjoyed this station and working with everybody involved. So for those of you that haven't been to the station, here's a couple of images of what the station looks like in a sunny day, which doesn't happen often in Glasgow. The purpose of the presentation today is to give you a bit of an overview of the station and the facilities available, how the station came about, a few interesting facts, a bit about the project funding and programme, the procurement route taken, the collaboration amongst the stakeholders. That was probably my most favourite part of this project, so Team Robroyston, the project governance, community engagement, development of the design from grip stage 4 to grip stage 5, some of the design challenges, the importance of project handback, and then we'll show you a quick video of the Access for All overbridge going in, and then there'll be some time at the end for some questions. So just to give you an overview of the station itself, so I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. This is the station footprint. A link road was put in from the M80. This essentially took traffic off the road network. The overbridge, which is just out of this photograph, is where the traffic basically starts during peak hour, sort of in a pre-COVID environment. So this link road was put in, and there was also a connection to the M80. There was 2 car parks put in. These car parks are free to use. There's a total of 263 parking spaces, 20 of which are fully accessible, and there is 12 electric vehicle charging bays, so there's 6 units. There was no through access created between these two car parks, and that was to prevent the station becoming a rat run between the M80 and the M8. There is scope for a third car park should the requirement demand it. There's secure parking for 32 cycles on one in each car park. There is an access for all overbridge, so that provides step-free access between the two platforms. So there's lifts within these towers here that you can see. There's 250 metre GRP platforms. As part of the project, we had to remove 4 of the existing overhead lines and replace them with 5. And this was to achieve overhead line clearance. There's 2 Maceman shelters on each platform, and within each shelter there's a TVM. There's a P-Val at the entrance to both platforms. The station itself is covered by full CCTV, LED lighting, there's Wi-Fi coverage, customer help points, CIS screens, and there's 2 winterization units, 1 in each car park, and that reduces the requirement for grip bins actually on the platform itself. So here's an aerial image of the photograph, just so you can see things a bit clearer. And this one here shows the access road to the M80 in more detail. So how it all began, the project dates back to 2003 when Robroyston was identified in this Glasgow city plan as a core development area, and this included the provision for the new station. It was a catalyst for the regeneration of the area. So essentially this was connecting Robroyston to the 2 city centres, Edinburgh and Glasgow. In the years that follows, there was several studies, strategies, master plans, and the area was subsequently given community growth status. Planning permission in principle was granted back in 2012 for the residential development and the station itself. So in 2015, the project client steering group was set up, and this was to oversee the delivery of the project. So this included representatives from Glasgow City Council, the housing developer, Park Lane, Network Rail, Transport Scotland, ScotRail, SPT, so a sort of well organised group. So Network Rail undertook the GRIP 4 design for the station, and as Ian mentioned, the Hansford review came out in 2017. So Robroyston became the first station to follow the new model for delivery, with ScotRail being the delivery agent and not Network Rail for GRIP stages 5 to 8. So the Hansford model aims to deliver rail projects more competitively through enabling third-party investment, innovation, and offering better value for money. So a few interesting facts. The station opened on the 15th of December 2019. It's Glasgow's 60th train station. The station itself is constructed on the previous footprint of Robroyston station from 50 years previous. I found this photo on the internet of the station. Network Rail owns the infrastructure, but ScotRail operates the station as part of the franchise agreement. The station itself is situated on the Edinburgh-Glasgow line via Cumbernauld. There's a train calling at the station every half hour. It only takes 12 minutes to get to Glasgow Queen Street, and it only costs you £2.20 return off peak and £4.10 in peak time, or you can buy 10 journeys for £17.30. And to go to Edinburgh, it is £10 return off peak, £25.50 return peak, or again, a flexi pass, you can get that for £125.90. The station is a Category A station. It provides step-free access from platform to platform. The station itself is serviced by the new shiny Hitachi 385 trains, which are 18% more energy efficient than the old trains. And as I previously mentioned, it gets the traffic off the M80, and it's a catalyst for 1,600 new homes. You can see in the photograph there that the housing is well underway. And as part of the initial works to provide access to the station, a new 5-metre shared cycle and pedestrian route has been formed below the M80. So that provides safe passage under the M80 on and off ramps. So in terms of funding, the total project funding was 14 million, and that was split between Transport Scotland, Network Rail Scottish Stations Funds, Glasgow City Council and SPT. So this photograph was taken to commence the sort of start of the works. The grip stage 5 to 8 was procured through an SBCC contract design and build. So Amco Giffen were the preferred principal contractor with Atkins as their designer. The overall programme duration for the works was 15 months from contract award. So site investigations commenced in October 2018, with construction commencing in the January through to practical completion and entry into service in December 2019. So the project was a success due to the teamwork of everybody involved. So this was the first time this delivery model had been followed. So we were all new to this. It was key that everyone was on the same journey from the beginning, working in collaboration to achieve the same end result. And we did that really well. There was other key stakeholders other than those that you see in the circle there. There was the design and build contractor Amco and Atkins. There was project support services such as myself as project manager from WSP and the employer's agent from Doig and Smith. And the ORR, we worked closely with the ORR as ultimately they provided project authorisation before the station could open. The results of this collaborative journey was the project was delivered on programme and under the anticipated budget. We were winner of the Transport Team Partnership of the Year in October 2020, and we were also shortlisted for the RICS Social Impacts Awards in April 2020. So how did the stakeholders come together? There was a number of sort of key project meetings. So the key meeting was a client steering group. As I previously mentioned, this was started in 2015 and ran all the way through to entry into service. Everyone at this meeting was accountable for making decisions on behalf of their organisation. And the main purpose of this meeting was to deal with any issues that arose that couldn't be dealt with at project level. So an example of this was obtaining a SPEN wayleave for the new substation. So this was always a known risk, even before I was involved with the project, because of the necessity for a new power supply at the station. However, when it became evident that this was now impacting the project programme, Transport Scotland were able to take this away and escalate the issue within SPEN, and as a result, the wayleave was granted. Without this escalation process, we wouldn't have hit key programme dates, and we might very well be waiting on that wayleave today. The project coordination meeting, this was a key meeting to monitor the interface between the road contractor from the M80 and the station footprint. We dealt with issues such as the planning conditions, as it was one set of planning conditions that dealt with both sites. So we dealt with this by creating an amalgamated tracker that dealt with both sites so that we could make sure that all conditions were discharged in alignment with the two separate programmes. This worked really well at Robroyston, having this project coordination meeting between the two contractors, but an outcome of the lessons learned workshop was that maybe having one contractor undertaking both projects would have removed this interface issue, but we did deal with it well in this project as a team. Another key meeting was an internal ScotRail stakeholder meeting. This was key to getting inputs right first time from a talk perspective. So it was essentially analysing the end-to-end passenger experience. So key players in this were property services. It was getting the station furniture right, the comms team, the safety validation team, the occupational and operational safety, because it was a new station, so train drivers had to get the buy-in, the utilities and environment team, so community engagement and inclusivity. Another key meeting was the external stakeholder meeting. This meeting was set up to update wider stakeholders, so the ORR attended this meeting and the British Transport Police, just to keep them abreast of any works that were happening on site. There was site progress meetings and design meetings. So this was originally held in Atkin's office and soon moved on to site. Having both Network Rail and ScotRail present at these meetings was key to getting the design right and obtaining design approvals on programme. This worked really well as Network Rail knew exactly what was coming, and we were able to work together to get designs turned around in hardly any time at all. The entry into service meetings, this was key to ensure the relevant documentation and activities were undertaken to obtain ORR authorisation. This was a success because we had a dedicated resource responsible for managing all the entry into service documentation. So key deliverables here were the asset management plans, entry into service documentation, the health and safety file, the technical file, attendance at the system review panel, and the building handback forms that Kirsty is going to talk about later on. So community engagement was also key on this project. So AMCO signed up to the Considerate Constructor scheme to emphasise best practice, and that was beyond their statutory requirements. This was done well at Robroyston because we invited all the local councillors, MPs, MSPs out to site and took them on a site visit, walked them around, kept them abreast of any works that could affect the local community and essentially their constituents. So this allowed any complaints to be dealt with before they escalated. The project engaged with residents ahead of any works. We agreed with local councillors which lineside neighbours should receive a letter informing them of any possible disruptions. I remember standing on site and finding the furthest away house and saying, right, we're going to target that house and anything in front of that is going to get a letter. There was a lot of collaboration between both Park Lane and AMCO. There was a united front there in dealing with residents and the interface between the two separate projects. And this proactive approach resulted in no ministerial complaints from the project. The British Transport Police, they played a key role during both the design stage and the construction stage of the project. They were able to input their local knowledge to optimise the design, and they visited the site at least 3 times a week and just alerted us to any suspicious activity, anything that could potentially affect the site works itself. So there was a few changes from the Grit 4 design to the Grit 5. The original Grit 4 design for the station was traditional platforms. So in line with sort of sustainability, the platform design was replaced with GRP platforms. There are lots of benefits with GRP. It's a lighter product, which in turn reduces the number of foundations required. It affects the local society. There's less noise, less construction traffic. When it was delivered to site, it took up such a small area. I remember looking at it and thinking, is that it? The composite surface of the GRP is incredibly low maintenance. Additions such as the tactile strips are integrated into the platform, and it practically eliminates ongoing costs of platform edge painting and also reduces the necessity for square. The platforms also have the ability to move up and down and in and out within a certain tolerance, and this can all be done during our rules of the route possession, so it's less disruption to the railway itself. And you can see in the photograph to the left here, the ducting is slung underneath the sort of steel substructure, and there's a number of access chambers, so any cables underneath can be accessed pretty easily. The Grip 4 design also only showed 2 electric vehicle charging points. However, given future aspirations for net zero carbon, Transport Scotland funded an additional 6 units, and another key item is additional ducting to future-proof the station, so designing for today as well as tomorrow. Due to interface meetings with the ScotRail property team, it was recognised that the 5x1 Maceman shelters that are in a lot of stations aren't great for wheelchair users, because if there's anybody else within the shelter and you go in a wheelchair to buy your ticket, you need to reverse out towards the tracks, as it's quite hard to get to the other entrance or exit. However, by increasing the width of the shelter, it means that people in wheelchairs can go in, buy their ticket, turn around and come back out. And another sort of change from the Grip 4 design was the inclusion of the Falco cycle shelters. So this is secure storage for 32 cycles, fully covered by CCTV. The sort of previous design was the standard Sheffield rings. Some of the design challenges that Atkins encountered. So the original design for the station was using the existing overbridge for step-free platform-to-platform access. However, due to a change in TSI compliance, the whole station was moved further west, and this was to achieve the correct overhead line clearance. However, by moving the station, it also moved it out with an area where the ground conditions were known, and unfortunately moved it deeper into the peat. So the ground conditions, especially where the car parks were, had significant and varying peat layers, and there was no predefined settlement limits. And this resulted in a lot of piling and the inclusion of a geotextile membrane. And to make it even harder, the car park and road design had to tie in with the M80 road design, which was being undertaken by a different designer to different standards. Another design challenge that came up in the Grip 5, so the project originally undertook a road vehicle risk assessment. However, as Robroyston is a brand new station, the project was required to follow an as low as reasonably practical approach. So this was instead of the scoring mechanism, and this meant that there was a significant increase in the vehicle containment in the Grip 5 as that what was shown in the Grip 4. So you can see here there was a substantial earth bund put in at the south station, and there was high containment curbing and a barrier put in the north of the car park. Oh, over to Kirsty. I didn't realise that was me. But sort of one of the key things I just wanted to highlight was the teamwork through the whole project. Everyone really did go above and beyond to make the project a success, to deliver the project on programme and under budget. Over to you, Kirsty.
Thanks, Sarah. So I think Sarah's covered all the during the project. As I say, I picked up the project quite or came to the project, if you like, quite late in the day, but was heavily involved with it for the last frenetic 6 months leading up to opening. I think for me, you know, one of the things that sometimes it doesn't have enough emphasis is the station handback and the project closeout. So never underestimate project closeout. I think you have to ensure that you've got appropriate resource and management until the project is completely closed out. So particularly if you are using contractor or supplier services, that you make sure that you build in enough time or enough contingency to carry on after the station's opened. So strive to complete any remaining snagging or outstanding work before entry into service, ideally, or as soon as practicable after. Again, there is still some snagging that we struggled with, probably due to a combination of factors of weather, the COVID restrictions, some staff going into furlough. So we had a number of challenges that you wouldn't always necessarily have on a project, but certainly getting the attention to close out the snagging is always a bit of an issue. So seasonal factors, why do we always open stations in December? We like to give ourselves these challenges around December timetable change, December 18 being case in point. So, you know, why do we do that? So I think lesson learned would be try and move station openings. Conclude financial matters after practical completion. Again, that can take a little while to close out, and it's good to do that as soon as possible. Land transfer and legal matters. So it'd be fair to say that there were quite a few involved with this station, just due to the land, the different partners who were involved, the area that it covered. So again, you know, ecological issues, council, it can take some time. So again, it needs to be built into the overall project. It doesn't stop when the station opens necessarily. And having two contractors working in parallel can result in two parties having to agree the handback. So again, we'd said that one of the lessons learned was that ideally you would have the same contractor delivering both parts of a project, and in this case we had two contractors working in parallel. And where you have to get a road adopted or you have to do any kind of joint handback, it's just slightly more difficult where there are different parties involved and different contractors. So those are really the main points that I had for the station handback. I think the station is a great success. I live in Bishopbriggs, so whenever I have to go to the station and take any photographs or do anything, which were those snowy photographs of the houses that you saw, it's 5 minutes along the road, as is Cadder Depot, which is another project that I'm involved in just now. So I like those that are within minutes from my house. But it still looks great. I'm a huge fan of GRP platforms. I think they're very neat. They look really good. A year on, they still look great. You don't have the same issues with tar patches, patching up, going round things. Inevitably, when you go to a station handback, there's usually something that has happened. Don't have that with GRP. So for me, I think the only issue was that Robroyston opened pre-pandemic, which I guess nobody could have foreseen. So the passenger numbers obviously suffered the same as passenger numbers have suffered on the rest of the network. But the fact that the houses are being built, that the passenger numbers were very healthy, ahead of forecast, and everything that was in the business cases prior to COVID hitting, are really encouraging. So hopefully that will come back and the station will be very successful. So show you now the time lapse video, which is the video of the access rail bridge being installed, and then take any questions.
Kirsty, on the GRP, we did undertake a walk round at Livingston Station and put in lessons learned from Livingston. So hopefully the next time the GRP goes in, it's Mark 3, and
yes.
it's better.
I think Stephen's put a comment in there to that effect. So I think that's something to point out, is that we did learn lessons from Livingston, and it was done slightly differently at Robroyston. So as Sarah says, it's you know, it can only improve and get better the more that you use that product. So
maybe the under GRP heating would have been beneficial on the official opening day.
Definitely, yes, that was right up there as one of the coldest days ever, I would say.
I think so. I'll play the video just now.
Thanks, Sarah. I should say that's one of the most watched videos we've put out on social media.
I think Robroyston station in itself was one of the most shared posts on LinkedIn as well.
Takes me back to my Meccano days when I was a young boy. Brilliant to see it all come together.
Yeah.
Excellent.